A Protest Guide for People Power 2. Chapter 1. Vote on the People Power Program to be your new form of government. Activists unite to achieve true democracy. The reason the Occupy movement failed in America is because it did not attract great masses of people like the Arab Spring did. A part of the issue is lack of desperation and intensity. The average American, Canadian, Brit or Aussie wants to be entertained by TV, video games, and other gadgets every day. There is no sense of urgency. Life is not that desperate yet that people are struggling for their survival day by day. What every country needs is a temporary unification of almost all of its activist groups who agree to fight together to get the People Power Program /PPP, which is to get a national referendum made up of one question online. The citizens will log into a website like peopower.gov, type in their social security or social insurance number, then type in their zip code / postal code to establish this as their future password, then vote on this question. Should we abolish the Senate and replace it with the online voting agency where people will vote on big important issues that the President / Prime Minister and Congress / Parliament come up with, plus the people will come up with their own ideas and vote on them? Yes. No. This is the crucial start towards true democracy. This is the opportunity to unite under one banner in your country. Make the People Power Program and the online town hall your two fighting issues. Set up mega protests by any means possible to get people to show up somewhere for any period of time. If the politicians see a massive sea of people outside of their parliament buildings, they know their asses are grass in the next election if they don't bend to the will of the people immediately, right now. A mob of people can take over a government and send politicians running for their lives. They did it in Italy, Poland, Romania, Sri Lanka, and other countries. If our politicians in our Western democracies choose to play arrogant, then we have to embarrass them by showing them the people are the bosses, not them. The way to do this is for the people to show up at a protest in massive numbers. That's all we have to do. We don't have to die like they're doing in the Middle East in their fight for freedom. No army or police force in the modern West would dare fire on their own people, partially because they are blue-collar workers and partially because they too know that their bosses, the politicians, are selfing bums. If the cops fired on people at a protest at the parliament buildings in a modern Western nation, it would backfire on them. The current president would get all the blame. The first time I went to a protest when I was about 14, I thought it was the coolest thing because for the first time in my life I saw thousands of people that I never knew existed in my hometown. This is the people. It's good to get together en masse every once in a while just to see that there are lots of us who can be powerful in large numbers. You get 1 million people showing up anywhere and there's a good chance that the elected leader will set up an e-voting system for the people to vote on the People Power Program /PPP. If he's too stupid to know he can't win, the people in his own party might get rid of him. We expect politicians to do the right thing in helping their constituents, but the truth is that they are an arrogant bunch. My guess is that many presidents will not readily give the people the power to vote on the People Power Program. They do not want to give up any of their power. They think they're above the people and have wisdom the peasants don't have. Unite and fight for change. Left to their own devices, I do not think that most politicians have the nobility, wisdom, or greatness to create an electronic voting system where the people will log into the website peopower.gov, type in their national ID number, then vote on whether they want to abolish their Senate and replace them with the People Power Program /PPP, an online voting system issue by issue. This means that you, the people, will have to fight your politicians to get it. If you leave it to your governments to get around to creating some kind of better democracy where the people can go online and vote issue by issue, it will not happen because the number one priority for people in power is to keep that power, not to help the people. The proof is in the fact that we have mountains of poor and homeless people after 200+ years of representative democracy. Our fake representatives have big aircraft carriers while some people sleep in tents in the middle of winter. This is why I have contempt for our elected politicians and their elitist bubbles of Washington and Ottawa. Demand the People Power Program and get out there with massive protests made up of millions of people to show them that it's serious business. We, the people, should make our own decisions by voting on bills online. The head dude of a majority government could be a wise, enlightened leader who will know a good idea when he sees one and gladly relinquish most of his power to the people by giving them the People Power Program referendum. But most presidents and prime ministers did not get there by being noble, philosopher kings. They got there by scheming and brown-nosing. I listened to a guy Mark A. Carpenter on the Strange Planet YouTube channel talking about ancient kings. He said they believed they had a divine right to rule, which goes back to the Nephilim in the Bible, a bunch of fallen angels with the arrogance to try to enslave the human race. Dwight Eisenhower said only an egomaniac or a crazy man would want to be the president. He was the president of a university. They coaxed him to run for president of the U.S. The lesson is that the people in charge of any country have some kind of narcissistic arrogant personality traits where they only care about themselves while putting forth the pretense that they care about people. Prepare for a fight with your government. Many world leaders will only do as the majority wants if the people protest en masse and threaten to topple him or her with an overwhelming presence that his security goons can't stop. Look at Egypt for a lesson in revolution. The government did not budge 2 times until there were over 1 million people in the streets who stayed. You can't just protest for a day. You have to occupy the government building's bubble and set up camp there until you get the electronic voting system that will enable you to vote on the People Power Program/PPP referendum. Do you want to abolish the Senate, or other secondary chamber, and replace it with the People Power Program to make our nation a true democracy? Until then, all the little protests as with the Occupy movement and small voices of dissent you might hear on the radio as with Rabble.ca, democracynow.org, Renzi.com, Infowars.com, Pacifica.org, MediaMonarchy.com, Adbusters.org or FSRN.org are minor entertainment that have no power in the real world. I respect activists for talking about injustice nearly every day on the radio, but they will never get any real power unless all activists unite under one umbrella group to fight for making the People Power Program the law of the land. All oppressed, angry people fighting poverty and injustice are a bunch of nobodies on the world stage of mass media because you're not united. If you all united under one idea, the People Power Program/PPP, you would get true democracy in many countries. If your president or prime minister refuses to set up a simple e-voting program that will enable the people to vote on the People Power Program/PPP referendum, he or she is violating his/her most fundamental precept, which is to help the people live better lives. Such an act would deserve a revolution. I have yet to see one newly elected leader in the big Western countries say the military is a big waste of money. If we get rid of our military, we are not an oppressor anymore. We will be a peaceful nation. Terrorists won't bother us. We'll use that money to build up our infrastructure and help our people. Costa Rica got rid of their military. They're not falling to pieces. The military budget gets bigger in most countries every year. I suggest all the activist groups in every country first unite among themselves with a central team of leaders that creates an email list or Twitter X list of all the groups and individuals in the country involved. You have your own website and YouTube channel where you are posting stuff up, plus you have the email mailing list and the Twitter handle to send out messages fast. LinkedIn has tools that activists can use too. It's more secretive there too. The police and security agencies will be monitoring and infiltrating a big activist movement. Once you have your contact list of activists and groups, assume you are being monitored, but go ahead anyway to set up massive protests and commit acts of civil disobedience, if necessary, to get what we are supposed to have by our inherent rights as human beings living in supposed democracies, a direct vote on all the big issues that will affect how our tax money is spent and how we live day by day. I'm a Canadian. I followed the trucker protests. They had a central command. They knew they were being infiltrated. There were a number of activists on the street doing live uploads on YouTube. They got it on tape when the cops swooped down and arrested some of those YouTube guys who weren't breaking any laws, just walking down the street filming, but the cops don't care. The cops identified about a dozen YouTube channels of activists reporting on the protests. They shut them down overnight. You need backup websites and you have to tell the people in advance if your YouTube channel goes down, you're on some obscure website like Rumble, BitChute, or Odyssey. If a website is hosted in North America, they can go to the ISP and shut it down with a threat. They just say that website is engaged in criminal activity. If you don't shut it down, we will charge you as an accomplice. If a website is hosted somewhere like Russia or Iran, they do not have the technology to shut it down until they find the server, then they can zap it. They will identify the leaders and take them out. You have no rights in a protest. The government and the cops see it as a war against them. Forget about all that crap about human rights. Revolution is not candy-ass stuff. There has been a lot of blood split fighting for freedom. It's not over yet. Protest for people power if your leaders refuse it. Will your president or prime minister do the right thing and put an electronic voting system into place so people can log into a government website, peoplepower.gov, and vote on whether they want to abolish their Senate and replace it with the People Power Program/PPP? If he doesn't, then all the protests that happen are his fault. If politicians go against their prime directive, which is to help their constituents live better lives, they should be kicked out or do what they did to Mussolini and the dude in Romania. Their most basic rule is to serve the people, not try to use their power for their own ends. I see is selfish people pretending to be good people. The People Power Program/PPP is about moving our representative democracy towards true democracy by giving every citizen the power to vote on the nation's big issues. If the President or PM doesn't give us the People Power Program/PPP, then it's time for the people to take action for their rights. They arrested some rappers for singing a song about the G8 conference where they told people to come out and protest. They stayed in jail for 2 months until they got bail. That's what the cops do. In the case of protest, forget about your civil rights. They throw you in jail and scare you. The Canadian government got so bad that they froze the bank accounts of the protest leaders. That's dictator-like oppression. Your leader has 2 options. 1. Do the wise, enlightened, honorable thing. Say, I must help the people live better lives. The People Power Program/PPP is a good thing for the country. I will let the people vote to replace the Senate with it. 2. I was elected to be Prime Minister/President. I run this country for the next 4 years. Nobody tells me what to do. I do what I want. No ragtag hippies are going to threaten me and get away with it. The people can go to hell. I'm the boss. They listen to me, not the other way around. I'll arrest that loudmouth hippie and throw his ungrateful ass in jail until after the next election. The people are so wimpy they'll fold and go back to their wimpy lives. It will all go away by the next election. I'll just run some more attack ads and win another majority. This is the battleground. Will your leader let you vote on changing your government to the People Power Program/PPP? If he or she doesn't, then it's up to you to fight to get it. Chapter 2. Unite and fight. Seniors should be angry enough to protest. The French people protested in the streets when their government tried to raise the mandatory retirement age from 60 to 62. When they tried to raise the old age pension age in Canada from 65 to 67, barely anybody whimpered. It didn't pass because the Liberals got in and canned it, but nobody protested when the Conservatives created the idea. Seniors were young once. There is a history of protests. Get the senior citizens involved in demanding the People Power Program/PPP. If there is a protest, get the senior citizens out there, even the ones in wheelchairs. They represent lots of people. It looks good when you line up a bunch of seniors in the front row of a protest facing a bunch of helmeted goons with nightsticks and shields. If they hit seniors, then all their credibility is gone. Unions believe in one man, one vote for strike action. The unions have always been about one man, one vote in deciding on whether to take strike action. They don't leave it up to their representatives to make the big decisions. They all vote on them. That's true democracy. If your government refuses to let the people vote on the People Power Program/PPP as a new system of government, the unions are a source of activism. We will need union help if we have to fight the government for the People Power Program/PPP. One of the big unions could collect the email addresses of all the unions in your country to tell them about protests if and when it comes to that. Young people and college students are the soul of any revolution. Older people don't care. They want to protect their little bit of real estate. Young people have nothing to lose. They were the strength of the Ottawa protests. If the government ignores the People Power Program/PPP, we need college students to demand it. The student unions, student radio stations and student newspapers can unite to form a massive student activist email list and Twitter account which they'll have available to mobilize our youth should we need to mount a massive protest against the government. Gays, blacks, natives, and farm workers are good activists for their causes. You're all good to fight for your cause, but the mainstream media and politicians pigeonhole you into a group or category then ignore you. If you temporarily unite to fight for the People Power Program/PPP, we can win the right to run the government online with a one-man one-vote policy. Do whatever you do in fighting for your cause, but for now change the message to we want to vote for the People Power Program/PPP.